The Russia-Ukraine war has been escalating for years, and it's time to ask the question, what are the possible outcomes? Hey everyone, welcome back to PrimeTime TV on another video. From the political ramifications to the human cost, we'll dive deeply into this conflict and look at the possible outcomes. So stay tuned and let's find out together. Analyzing the fair chances of a Russia-Ukraine war. The Ukraine war is one of the most significant geopolitical turning points of the current century. It represents a complex confrontation in multiple battle spaces, from the kinetic and economic to the infosphere and ideological. The West's support for Ukraine has increased the stakes, and any miscalculation or mistake could trigger a dangerous escalation. With so many overlapping dynamics and actors, the potential for an all-out conflict is disturbingly high. The Ukraine war is a reminder of the fragility of the global balance of power and why it must be vigilantly safeguarded. The Russia-Ukraine war is an ongoing conflict between the two countries that began in the year 2001. The war has resulted in a significant number of casualties, displacement of people, and destruction of infrastructure. As the conflict continues, the potential outcomes remain uncertain. The most likely outcome is a negotiated political settlement between the two countries, with a ceasefire and the withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine's borders. This could lead to an eventual lifting of sanctions on Russia and a resolution to the conflict. Another potential outcome is a continuation of the conflict, with no end in sight. This could result in further destruction and loss of life, and could even lead to a wider conflict in the region. Finally, it is possible that the war could be resolved through a military victory by one of the countries. If Russia were to win, Ukraine would become a satellite state, and the region would be subject to Russian influence. If Ukraine were to win, the country would be independent and free from Russian interference. The possible outcomes of the Russia-Ukraine war can range from a complete ceasefire to a full-scale Russian occupation of Ukraine, to a prolonged military conflict between the two countries. In the event of a ceasefire, a peace agreement may be negotiated that could include a truce, prisoner exchanges, or withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukrainian territory. In the event of Russian occupation, Ukraine could be forced to accept Russian control, or it could continue to resist, leading to further conflict. In the event of a prolonged conflict, the situation could remain unresolved for years, with both sides suffering heavy casualties and economic losses. Regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain: the repercussions of this conflict will be felt for generations to come. That being said, irrespective of the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war, it will have far-reaching consequences for the region. Ukrainian success. On the other hand, the Ukrainian government could have the upper hand in this conflict. Even though the Russian Federation has superior military capabilities, Ukraine has already shown that it can withstand a drawn-out war of attrition. In addition, Kyiv's newfound willingness to embrace Western political and economic models makes it more resistant to Kremlin-directed subversion. As a result, the Ukrainian state could remain a viable entity even if Russia's war aims were not completely fulfilled. Moreover, the Ukrainian armed forces have been able to fend off most attempts by the Russians to capture key points of influence, such as the port of Mariupol and the strategic city of Kramatorsk. Furthermore, the Ukrainian government has managed to obtain military and financial assistance from the West and has leveraged the presence of international observers to dissuade the Kremlin from launching a full-scale offensive. If Ukraine were to prevail, it would be the first time since the collapse of the Soviet Union that a post-communist state had resisted the Kremlin's geopolitical ambitions and emerged victorious. In this case, the victory of the Ukrainian state would open a new chapter in the geopolitics of Eurasia, one in which the Russian Federation would have to accept that it had been outmaneuvered by a smaller and weaker state. This could lead to a much wider shift in the geopolitical balance of power in the region, and could even result in the further erosion of the Russian Federation's position in the world. Peaceful resolution. The second possible outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war is a peaceful resolution. This could happen if the Kremlin decides to accept a face-saving compromise. This could involve a treaty that would grant autonomy to the rebel regions, while allowing the Ukrainian government to remain in control of Kyiv. This would mean that Russia would have to accept the loss of Crimea, but it would also be compensated with economic concessions and guarantees that the government in Kyiv will not join NATO. Such a deal would have the advantage of ending the conflict without the need for a substantial increase in defense spending or a substantial reduction in the quality of life in Russia. In this scenario, Moscow would also be able to keep its influence in the region, as it will continue to be the main sponsor of the rebel governments. Furthermore, Moscow would also be able to continue to use the region as a buffer against the West. The economic downturn has been a direct result of the conflict in Western Europe. The disruption to fuel supplies and increased gas prices have harmed businesses in the region, leading to job losses and a drop in economic growth. The gas used for heating homes has also been affected by the conflict. Many households across the region have been cut off from gas supplies, leaving them without a source of heating. This has led to an increase in energy poverty, with people struggling to keep their homes warm during the cold winter months. The ramifications of the war in Western Europe have been far-reaching and devastating. The natural gas heating crisis, fuel crisis, and economic downturn have harmed the region, leaving many households without a reliable source of heating and facing increased energy poverty levels. The outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war is still a mystery, but one thing is certain: no matter what the result, the consequences will be far-reaching and long-lasting. What do you think? Share your thoughts below. Until the next video, bye.